Started. I want to welcome everyone to tonight's Community Development Commission meeting on June 15th, 2026. My name is Sarah Callis. I'm an attorney with Bond, Conway and Smith, one of the city attorneys, and I am here this evening to facilitate tonight's meeting. Mr. Chairman, if you would please call the meeting to order.
Mr. Parenti.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Zatko is not here. Ms. Rudnicki is not here. Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Mr. Guzik.
Here.
Mr. Tao.
Here. The CDC has a quorum. We need a motion to approve minutes for May 18th, 2026. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second? There we have first and a second. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Moving to our public hearing. Ms. Callis, as chairman, I request that you serve as a public hearing facilitator.
Certainly. I will serve as tonight's facilitator, which means that I am guiding the hearing process, maintain order, and ensure that all interested persons have an opportunity to be heard. I will not advocate for any position regarding the matters before the commission. For our public hearings, all testimony will be given under oath. At the hearing, there will be an opportunity for the public to offer testimony and to comment. Following the public hearing, the CDC's deliberations will be open to the public in the sense that all are invited to listen and to watch. The public, however, may not speak during our deliberations. We ask that the applicants here tonight give specific evidence to demonstrate that the proposal meets the standards of approval for the request. The burden is on the applicant to prove the case. Additionally, city staff will provide a general description of the proposal, followed by their analysis. With respect to others who wish to speak, you may give an opinion or present specific evidence as to why you believe that the applicant meets or fails to meet the standards for the request. Finally, we will strictly adhere to the schedule prepared for tonight's meeting. However, those wishing to submit evidence and testimony will be afforded sufficient time within which to do so. Whether you are a member of the public wishing to make a statement for the record or a witness testifying on behalf of the applicant, you will be placed under oath and then begin by stating your name and address. You will be subject to questions by the Community Development Commission and potential cross-examination by the applicant. To allow as many people as possible to be heard, we would request that your remarks be limited to 5 minutes. If additional time is needed, the hearing will be continued until the next available hearing date. Calling tonight's first matter, CDC 2026-0005. This case involves an application filed by Deuce Raymond and 265 Venture Partners, LLC, for redevelopment of 265 East Irving Park Road, formerly Tom Zach's Tap, to construct a standalone barbecue restaurant with a drive-through. The proposed redevelopment is subject to approval of multiple zoning requests, including a special use for a drive-through, a site plan review, which is required for any special use, a plat of subdivision for the consolidation of 3 lots into 1, a text amendment to allow consideration of variations to landscape requirements, and zoning variations, including variation requests to front and rear setbacks, parking regulations, landscape requirements, building materials, and to the sign code. Let's begin. Staff, please indicate when notice of the hearing was published and whether you have the certificate of publication from the newspaper.
Would you raise your right hand? State your name and address, please.
Gosha Pocheja, 404 North Wooddale Road, Wooddale, Illinois.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Thank you. Yes, the public hearing notice for the public hearing tonight was published in Daily Herald on May 29th. We do have a certificate of publication on file. We also sent out notices to property owners within 200 feet of the subject property, and a sign was placed at the subject property by our public works staff.
Thank you, Gosha. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Yes. Do you want me to go first or Chad to go first?
The applicant. The applicant.
Applicant.
Wonderful.
Would you raise your right hand and state your name and address, please?
My name is Marshall Subach, S-U-B-A-C-H. I'm an attorney at Hunt & Subach, located at 1035 South York Road in Bensonville.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, Mr. Geppetto.
Thank you, Marshall.
All right, thank you very much. I represent the petitioner, who is 265 Venture Partners, LLC. With me tonight is Joe Junius, who is the architect. We also have Cliff Toberman, who is the engineer. And last but not least, Mike Latoria from Latoria Brothers Construction. We'll have them sworn in if they have actually testimony to be given. I want to first start by thanking staff for all the work they put into this project up to this point. Gosha worked really hard on this project with a ton of submittals from us. Kelly and Stacy also were very instrumental in helping us get to this point. There were many meetings that actually started a year ago on this project. The project originally started as a 2-unit building with a smaller restaurant and another commercial user, and then it evolved. It evolved as my clients started wanting to do different things with the property and really start to work on branding of this concept plan. Unfortunately, Deuce, the founder of this business, could not be present tonight. He had a pre-scheduled family vacation, and he was going to cancel it and come down from northern Wisconsin, and I told him that better than that, I asked him to do a video, and so you're going to see a little bit from Deuce in a little bit here. This is an exciting project for Wooddale. As a local attorney in Bensonville and Wooddale and a resident of Wooddale, I get excited about seeing redevelopment in Wooddale, especially along Irving Park Road, that needs some redevelopment to take place, and especially when it's a restaurant. It's exciting to me for you guys because you can be a part of this and see it from the conceptual plan to hopefully it gets finally developed. We're here seeking a site plan approval for special use to allow for a drive-through, a lot consolidation, multiple variances, and a text amendment to allow for variances from the UDO. The project is a redevelopment of the Tom Zach's Tap, and it's going to be a concept restaurant known as Deuce's Wild. The existing Tom Zach's building will be demolished as part of the redevelopment. The building has been thoughtfully designed. The architects are top-notch architects out of Oak Park. They've really done a good job working with the petitioner to get this building situated the right way and designed for their concept. The property is in the town center business district. A restaurant is a permitted use under the TCB. The proposed building is about 2,700 square feet with about 340 square feet of an outdoor patio. The outdoor patio will be used year-round. The restaurant has 42 indoor seats and 16 patio seats, together with on-site parking and a drive-through. You can see the site plan up there with the parking. Ownership intends for the patio to be available year-round, and it's been designed for seasonal heating and weather-adapted operation. There's going to be 21 parking spaces that they'll utilize for the space, including the alley. The space was designed to use the existing curb cut along Irving Park Road. Long-term, they're trying to do a branding of a new business, and they want to be here in Wooddale. This isn't a national chain coming in. It's a concept plan, and the hope is that Wooddale, like McDonald's, I believe the first one was in Des Plaines, and the first Deuce's Wild is going to be part of in Wooddale. So with that short introduction, I asked Gosha if you could play the video from Deuce Raymond.
Hello, I'm Deuce Raymond, and I'm a business owner here in Wooddale. I am the managing partner of SBR Events Group, which operates Sweet Baby Ray's Catering and True Cuisine special events. I am also the founder and co-owner of Deuce's Wild Competition Bar. Many people in the community know my family through Sweet Baby Ray's. My father, Chef Larry Raymond, created the original Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce recipe. Together with my Uncle Dave and their business partner, Mike O'Brien, they built that brand into the most recognizable barbecue brand in America. When the retail sauce business was sold, our family retained the rights to use the name Sweet Baby Ray's for restaurants and catering. That name and that legacy will always be incredibly important. But rather than waiting until we are forced to make a change someday, we are choosing to write the next chapter. That next chapter is Deuce's Wild Barbecue. Deuce's Wild began as a name for my competition barbecue team. Over time, it grew into a line of sauces and rubs, and now we are expanding it into a full restaurant concept right here in Woodville. This is not about forgetting Sweet Baby Ray's story. This is about honoring my father and my uncle, recognizing what they built, and carrying that family barbecue legacy forward.
Just buffering, I think.
Next generation. Wooddale has been home to our restaurant and catering business for more than 20 years. We have employed people here, served families and businesses here, and built lasting relationships in this community. We believe Wooddale is the right place to continue to grow, and Deuce's Wild represents a major investment in this community. Deuce's Wild will not be just another barbecue restaurant. First, the restaurant will tell our family story. Guests will see where we came from, how Sweet Baby Ray's began, and how Deuce's Wild represents the future of our family's barbecue legacy. Second, we are creating a special guest experience. From the building design and materials to the dining room, menu, and storytelling, every detail has been carefully planned to create a restaurant people will be proud to have in Woodville. Third, the food is built on decades of experience. I have spent nearly 30 years in food service and hospitality as a culinary graduate, chef, caterer, competition barbecue cook, entrepreneur, and barbecue educator. Our menu will be focused and intentional. We want to do barbecue the right way, and we will deliver consistent, high-quality products every single day. Finally, we are incorporating modern ordering, pickup, and drive-through technologies to create a more convenient and accurate guest experience. To bring this vision to life, we have assembled an outstanding professional team. Aria Group is leading the restaurant design and architecture. ADE Restaurant Services and Beth are helping develop the kitchen and equipment layout. Their construction is helping guide the construction and the development process. Every part of this restaurant is thoughtfully planned with a goal of creating a successful, lasting destination here in Woodville. Deuce's Wild is not just another barbecue joint opening up. It is a professionally designed restaurant built with purpose, care, and a long-term commitment to this community. It represents the next chapter of our family's legacy and a major investment in this community. The Sweet Baby Ray's legacy will not be forgotten. It will be honored, celebrated, and carried forward through Deuce's Wild. I hope the City of Wooddale will support this project, and I look forward to welcoming everybody to the restaurant to experience the food, the story, and the future of our family's barbecue tradition. Thank you.
Exciting, right? Get you going, get you hungry. When he talked about the quality design team, I know you didn't hear the attorney's name mentioned in there. He actually went on for about 20 or 30 minutes talking about the quality legal services that he's been receiving from Marshall Subak and Hunt and Subak, but I told him the video had to be cut down a little bit shorter, so that made it onto the cutting floor. So next, I just want to introduce Joe Junius, who is the architect that's going to tell you a little bit about the design of the building, the materials, and the color scheme that's been come up for this prototype restaurant.
Great. Marilyn, would you please swear the witness in?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sir, would you raise your right hand and state your name and address, please?
Joe Junius, 260 North Willow Road in Elmhurst.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Great. Well, you already saw a sneak peek of it in Deuce's video, but wanted to present and show some of the design of this restaurant. As everyone's kind of mentioned, we've been working on this for just about a year to really encapsulate and tell the story of Deuce and the barbecue that he's so proud about. Part of the scheme, as you see here, was to pull from some of his branding into the design, as well as start to create what that brand is. Obviously, the yellow to the Deuce's Wild is his brand, and we tried to use it tastefully within the signage as well as a place of entry at the front door. Outside of that, we looked to durable materials that allowed for this restaurant to kind of stand out on its own along Irving Park, as well as to provide that warmth and kind of, again, a nod to barbecue by using woods. They are not real wood, they're actually more durable, commercial grade products that replicate wood for the durability, but create that charred kind of wood appearance that you see here. Then the next, is there another slide? So as you kind of come around, this is actually where the drive-through, where you pick up the drive-through here, where this car is right there. And on this side, you can also see how this horizontal element provides kind of a consistency as a covered protection for as the food's passed out to the patrons in the cars as well. I think there's one more slide. Or two more still. This is the view of the interior and what we're proposing for the interior. You actually walk in, this is kind of actually on the way out, but you kind of walk in behind where this pig artifact is, and along kind of that back wall starts to tell Deuce's story. We've been working with them also on the branding side of things to really talk through their story, tell their story in an artistic but also clear way, and so that more patrons will understand Deuce and his brand and be passionate about, and how passionate he is about barbecue. This is also a visual of the order counter from the inside. You can see there's two windows that allow for visuals of the kind of the happenings, the excitement of preparing the barbecue behind the walls there. If you want to go, I believe there's one more, yeah. And then this is the dining room. This shows a concept of promoting the competition barbecue aspect of it. So we're working with Deuce to curate from his multiple awards that he's achieved in barbecue and displaying them. This banner is actually at the top, is actually currently in Sweet Baby Ray's. It's the beginning, right? So, and that's kind of why we're bringing it over. It talks about the Mark Ricoyo Rib Fest, and that's where Sweet Baby Ray's kind of started. And so we thought it would be prominent at the top of this curated trophy wall. You can see more materiality on the inside, pulling in, again, some branding, natural, warm materials, and furniture. Any questions for me at this time? Okay. Thank you so much.
The team does have some samples of the product. If you want to see them, we can pass them around. Not the food product, but the building materials. So as a member of the CDC, you see many proposals and developments come before you, and you hear about the comprehensive plan, right? And Wooddale's comprehensive plan, like any municipality, is a guide that the CDC and the City Council is supposed to follow with respect to future and concurrent land development. And it looks like, well, this is what Wooddale's properties are going to look like, hopefully, in the future. The comprehensive plan for Wooddale that you all were a part of, or this board was, talks about the redevelopment along Irving Park Road, including the north side of Irving Park Road. Believe it or not, I was working on this on a Sunday morning and reading the comprehensive plan, not a very exciting life, and the comprehensive plan talks about bringing older sites into redevelopment, like Tom Zacks, all right? And it also talks about that it recognized that the lot depths and the widths of the lots, that you're going to be requiring some lot consolidations, and it also talks about that concessions are going to need to be made to get these lots to be redevelopment. Concession is just a fancy word for variances. Your comprehensive plan, the people who did that recognize that to get properties along Irving Park Road redeveloped, there's going to have to be some variances that are adopted. You were also part of the UDO when the UDO got adopted and those changes were made. That changed the zoning all across Wooddale, right? And at the time that was adopted, it was impossible to see how each piece of property would be affected with the UDO until those come forward before you for redevelopment. So this is how we're going to see one of those examples tonight. So when you hear about the number of variances, I don't want you to be alarmed about that. It's not about the normal or the amount of variances. It's a normal process, and it's just a reflection of the difficulty of these lots and to get them redeveloped. I submitted a 9-page, and I apologize for how long it was, memorandum response dated May 9th, 2029. So I just want to make sure that's part of the record as part of my presentation. As I go through this presentation, it's not as flashy as Deuce's video, not as flashy as the color. It's the legal aspects to get this through the process. If you have any questions as I go, please stop. You can just interrupt me, raise your hand, and I'll stop in the middle of my presentation and answer your questions as we go. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the site plan approval. For a site plan approval, there's 8 standards. And the first standard is that the site plan meets the code and plan purposes. Again, the UDO and the comprehensive plan talks about redevelopment of obsolete properties, talks about wanting restaurant developments along the Irving Park corridor, talks about enhancing the visual character and curb appeal of Wooddale. Site plan meets all of those standards. The next standard is whether or not it'll be adverse impact on the adjacent properties. The property to the west is owned by, is common ownership with this property, and the property to the east is another commercial property that I believe has a 2-tenant building. One is the paint store, and the other, I believe, is currently a staffing building. So it's not going to have any adverse impact on those adjacent properties. The next factor is whether or not it's going to interfere with surrounding development. This is not going to interfere with any surrounding development. In fact, I'm hoping as a resident this acts as a spark for redevelopment along Irving Park Road. It just takes one to get this going, and hopefully you can snowball from there. The next factor is whether or not there's adequate public facilities. This is not going to place any undue burden on the public facilities or services. The plan has been utilized to use the alleyway in the back, which the comprehensive plan talks about as well. So most of the delivery trucks should be going in off the alley for deliveries off the rear of the building. Again, carefully designed to use what public access is there already, as well as Maple and Irving Park Road. The next question or factor is whether it's going to add to traffic congestion. We all live in town, right? We know Irving Park Road is far from a perfect road. When I did a development in Bensonville for the McDonald's at Mason and Irving Park Road, Bensonville required a traffic study, and the traffic study said Irving Park Road back then is a D as far as traffic flow, and as a result of McDonald's, it was still going to be a D. So this is not going to have an adverse effect on, I always focus for Wooddale on what's the local traffic issues going to be. We're on a corner, you're not going to have cut-through traffic because, again, the alley will be used for deliveries, so it should not have an adverse impact on local traffic. Yes, sir.
Is that entrance, or is that going to be an entrance or an exit coming out of Deuces?
Which one, on Irving Park Road?
No, the alley.
The alley is you can enter off of the alley.
Okay, there already is a flow of traffic that comes through the alley quite frequently. I live 3 houses north of the Sherwin-Williams.
Okay.
And we get feeding traffic during rush hour, morning and afternoon. People avoiding when there's trains, they'll jump off of Irving Park Road, speed down the alley, and cut through the side streets. They don't stop at the cross streets, even though it's not a thoroughfare.
Right.
It's not policed like a street. They'll just fly through it. And I walk that path down the alley to get to Irving Park Road to walk to the post office three days out of the week. I've been almost hit a couple times by cars just flying through there. So there is traffic. My concern would be added traffic coming in or exiting out and using that as a thoroughfare to go eastbound on the alley, or if they're going to be instructed or it's going to tilt the exit so they go out to Maple and around.
Cliff, you want to comment a little bit on that, probably?
If you
Because
could-
the alley's not changing as far as the design.
Exactly, but I know it's not your fault either as a development. It's the way that it's policed right now.
Sure.
It's not policed. And there's cars flying back and forth, and they don't heed to the stop signs.
Right.
So I'm saying that adding additional traffic going into the alley and using that as a form of entrance or exit is going to add traffic.
I'll have Cliff Toberman, if he can get sworn, he can comment on that traffic.
Sir, would you raise your right hand and state your name and address, please?
Cliff Toberman, 115 South Wilkie Road, Arlington Heights.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I would agree with you. The whole goal is to avoid alley use of any vehicles from that standpoint, and limited simply to deliveries. And that was a big consideration, actually, when we first started looking at this, was to keep, what's most important is that entrance, that the nice cut, open cut that's today there. Now, so I guess the question is, you're thinking that entrance could be used as a cut-through, or is today being used today?
Leaving or entering into the parking lot, that's adding a traffic flow into the alley. And Marshall said that it's not going to add additional flow of traffic, but it does, because we already have an existing flow of traffic that's not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
If that can be addressed when you're making your plans, maybe to the municipality, the police department, that we would like to be in agreement with you that this does need to be looked at. Maybe they can put up signage.
Yeah, the signage was the other thing. I'm like you. I thought the first thing is have signage, for sure, in that regard. Yield, it's a good idea if you're going to enter the alley, is the way it sounds like to me. Yeah, and the alley, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. Okay. But nonetheless, you know, it is, as you come in the main entrance, it is one-way flow, right? The whole goal is to come in one way with the drive-through included. And if you are parking to go in and then you leave, it is one-way flow. So which the alley could be used in that regard.
Maybe if the alley if they were instructed with some sort of sign that would say that their exit would go to Maple.
Yeah, I think it's very important what you just said, is that control the flow in one direction, with that being the case, with signage. Very important, actually. Oh, I see, yeah. So the goal would be, you know, if you're marching through the drive-through, undoubtedly you're going out the main entrance. That's the only choice you have.
Yeah.
And actually, some signage would be detailed.
Yes.
Most important is signage. I was thinking about that one today when I saw this. Well, the next step is getting some good signage out here, in all ways, right?
I agree.
And so nonetheless, the restaurant was there for many years, and so forth. And I personally think it's a better design than what was there, for sure. And this will only help matters. Probably from looking at it from a redevelopment standpoint, it's definitely a lot of thoughts gone on. And appreciate the suggestion, actually, recommendation.
The next factor for the site plan is whether or not it's going to be a destruction of significant features that are, you know, historic or significant features. I was a big fan of Tom Zach's in the Friday Night Fish Fry, but it ran its course. Eventually got shut down. They retired, went on to greener pastures, but this is a redevelopment in that same, another restaurant use. The next factor is whether or not it's going to be in compliance with the standards. The restaurant is a permitted use in the TCB district, and we are meeting the UDO standards other than the variances we are requesting. The next factor is the public benefit. Again, the comprehensive plan talks about trying to get restaurant development into Wooddale. The increase in assessed value will help the tax burden, hopefully on the residents like you and I, with respect to this will generate more in sales tax as well as real estate taxes than the current use now. And it will better improve the utility and the look along Irving Park Road. And then the last factor is that it's mitigation of adverse impact, trying to be good neighbors to everybody, and that makes, the point you brought up is very good. That this is why we have these public hearings, to get those comments. The signage can certainly be added, and I think actually having a functioning restaurant there, would somebody be able to call the police and ask for police assistance and enforcement, will hopefully help that situation. So those are the factors for the site plan review. Well, I'm sorry, for the special use. Next is the factors for the site plan review. In the UDO, there's standards A through K for a site plan. One is that the application is complete, which it is. Staff mentioned everything was submitted. Some of the things need to be updated, but we wanted to make sure we met certain deadlines for dates to get through this process. For example, the landscaping plan needs to be updated, but that's going to be part of the permitting process. We're going to meet all the code requirements that they require for that, other than the variances we're asking for today. The next factor for the site plan review is whether or not it's conditioned upon everything else, and the site plan approval is conditioned upon the special use permit for the drive-through and vice versa. The next factor is whether or not the site plan meets the standards of the UDO, which we do, other than the variances that are requested. Does it interfere with any right-of-ways? We already heard a little bit about the alley. This whole plan was designed around using the existing curb cuts along Irving Park Road to utilize that because we have to meet IDOT standards, and IDOT is not the easiest always to deal with. So IDOT's going to have to ultimately sign off on that the existing curb cut can be reused as originally put in. The next factor is whether or not there's going to be adequate screening. Again, there's going to be screening along the back, along the alleyway from the residential properties that'll meet code, and there's also going to be screening along Maple. Now here, we're into a little bit of a situation is, in order to get the width adequate and the drive aisles adequate and not ask for larger variances, we're going to ask, we informally asked through staff, and they thought we could probably get approval as to this landscaping here for the parking off of Maple is actually on the city right-of-way. But it's only landscaping. There'll be a separate license agreement that allows us to plant it there, allows us to maintain it, to get the adequate screening from the parking. The next factor is whether or not it meets the stormwater code requirements. We are using some impervious pavers to meet the stormwater requirements. There's also going to be some BPMs, I believe, BMPs, on site with respect to stormwater maintenance and drainage. It will not be a burden on the utilities, and the site plan will not adversely affect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. Now we get into the variances, okay? There's 14 of the variances, which again, it sounds like a lot, but when you break them down into sections, it's really not that bad. There's 3 setback requirement variations that we're seeking. The first one is when the UDO was passed, it said that all development along Irving Park Road needed a 60-foot setback from Irving Park Road. Consultants, they did, nice guys, they did a nice job. I argued with them that night quite a bit. I don't think they realized when they put in those standards, it's kind of like you pass it and then you see it, right? We're not at 60 feet, but we are at 48 feet 5 inches from the Irving Park Road right-of-way. So that's variance number 1. The next one is the rear yard setback. That's supposed to be 25 feet. Our development is 20 feet 9 inches. Again, this is due to the dimensions of the lot and the fact that Irving Park Road and that alley run on angles, and it makes some of those setbacks a little bit more difficult. The last one is the setback for Irving Park Road parking. That's these spaces. Those are supposed to be 8 feet back. They're going to be 5 feet back, so there's going to be a 3-foot variance there. That's where the handicap parking spot is available. And I believe that these 2 spaces primarily will be drive-through spaces where people are waiting for food. Hopefully it is busy and crowded there in a thriving restaurant. So that's kind of how those were designed. The next variances are the parking variances. One of the variances we need is for the parking located on the drive aisle closest to the principal structure. I read this over and over and over, and I got to be honest with you, I've been practicing law for 31 years. I'm not really sure what exactly the code when it said that that's where parking structures should be. So I went over it with Gosha in about 5 emails. I think I understand it now, but basically we need a variance that the parking is supposed to be closest. Gosha, is that correct? But we're going to have parking on both sides, so that's the requirement for the variance there. The next one is for the drive aisle. Under our code, the drive aisles are supposed to be 18 feet wide. Ours is going to be 16 feet wide. Mr. Latore did a great job in checking with the fire district ahead of time, and the fire district signed off on the 18-foot or the 16-foot drive aisle. They think that's fine. We provided turning radiuses for vehicles, and knowing that most of the deliveries are going to be in the rear of the building, so I really don't see that many trucks going through here. This area here is for, they do have a catering business that occasionally a truck will park there. If I'm having a party, they do the delivery or pickup right there, and then the truck, but that's like a box truck, it's not an 18-wheeler. So that's one of the variances for the drive aisle. And then the last one is parking. So the UDO provides for it based upon the square footage of the restaurant, how much of the space you have for the kitchen, how many parking spaces do you need. They come up with 25. My principles are, we have 21 spaces, so it's a variance of 4 parking spaces. I always say, guys in the restaurant business, they know how many parking spaces they need. They don't want to open a restaurant and have people not be able to park. Restaurants have evolved over time. They know the business. They are confident that they can function. They think they have more than enough parking with 21 spaces. Their business is kind of divided up in 3s or thirds. A third will dine in, they'll park. A third is going to be takeout through the drive-through. And then a third, when the code was adopted by the different, they don't always, the businesses, they catch up, or the code doesn't catch up with their businesses. Think about Uber Eats and Grubhub. They're not parking in those spaces, or they're parking and leaving. So again, the business owners are confident they have enough parking. They also are fortunate they own the catering business across on Maple. So if parking does become a problem, they can do a cross parking agreement, license agreement with the other business that has common ownership to take care of those issues. I hope the parking is a problem. That means the business is doing well. Yes?
Are they going to prohibit parking along Maple on the east side of Maple? Normally when the parking lot at Sweet Baby Ray's is full, at lunchtime there'll be cars parked on the east side of Maple. Are they going to prohibit that since the entrance is just past them?
Yeah, that hasn't come up yet, but that could be, if you want to make that as a recommendation to evaluate and evaluate at a staff level and a policing level, that would be fine.
That way there wouldn't be any kind of interruption.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the development does offer more parking than we actually have now at Tom's X.
Yeah.
And again, if parking does become a problem, they have that whole lot where
I'm not even considering it as a parking for Deuces. Currently, there's cars parked for Sweet Baby Ray's on this side of Maple and interrupting the flow of traffic in
Okay.
to your in or out of the back exit.
Right.
Might be a problem. So if they prohibited parking along Maple, it might do better service for Deuces.
Sure. And when this restaurant, if it does come to fruition, Sweet Baby Ray's is eventually going to close down. And the idea behind that building, that'll become a specialized building for like tastings for weddings and different events and corporate events, and use it in that fashion. So those are the 3 parking variations. Next, there are 3 landscaping variations. The first one is for landscaping along the west side here. supposed to be 100% coverage. If we get the city to agree to allow us to to put the plantings and landscaping on Maple Avenue on the right-of-way, we don't need that variance. Just in case we don't know what they're going to do, we do need a variance from this CDC in order to vary that landscaping requirement for the parking along Maple. The second variance is along the east side. Between commercial buildings, you're supposed to have 50% landscaping. There's quite a difference in elevation, and this is much higher than the lot next door. I don't even know how you would put landscaping on it because it just, there's a kind of a fall off. So we're asking for that variance for landscaping. And then around the building, the UDO requires to have 5 foot of landscaping around the foundation where you can. They are going to comply with where they can, but that is going to be closer to 2 feet wide. Some areas will be 3 feet wide, but it won't meet the 5 foot wide requirement. The next variance is for building materials. The UDO provides that all commercial developments have to be 50% stone. That's just a requirement that was passed by the UDO and I think confirmed by the City Council. I kind of follow the rule that, you know, I'm excited about this development and excited that someone wants to invest this much money in Wooddale. If they want to do stone, let them do stone. If they want to do wood because they're building a brand, building a prototype, I kind of say, let's just stay out of their way, and Deuce knows what they're doing, the architects know what they're doing. It's going to be a great-looking building, whether or not it had 50% stone, 3% stone. Actually, part of the stone they had on there was down really low, and you couldn't even see it. So I would rather have it, let them design it, and ask for the variance for the stone. Yes?
Does the cement board count as, no, it does not, okay.
Not yet, but at a future meeting, the council can change that and say we should change that, because there are new materials that are being designed all the time, and stone is not what it used to be, you know, and now you get stone facade, it's not even stone, so they're building a brand, they're building a prototype, and I just would say let them do that. The next one are there's 4 sign variances. The first one is there's the clearance bar when you go through the drive-through. My client would like to have barbecue like a boss above the clearance bar. Just, again, a branding issue, so that requires a variance. There are some small pig mural drawings on that's part of their intellectual property, copyright, in their design that are along the buildings. I was always told if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. If you put a pig on a wall, it's a sign, okay? So we need a variance for the pig design. The next one is for signs above the canopy. Gosha, can you show the, sorry. Thank you, Gosha. One more. So the UDO requires, personally, I think that looks great, right? But that's considered above the canopy. The code says all signage has to be below or on the canopy, right, Kosha? Is that correct? Okay. So where you want to go above the canopy, again, I think it looks great. So that's one of the variances. And then the last variance is if you see this sign here, there's the barbecue like a boss. That sign's not allowed under the UDO because it doesn't face a right-of-way, okay? So I know, again, you don't want buildings to have signs all over the place. I know that's the goal of the UDO and the goal of City Council, but that, to me, is more of a, you know, people walking up and seeing that sign if they're walking along Irving Park Road. Somebody riding their bike. We have to have a bike rack, believe it or not, on the property site. So if somebody rides the bike, they see it there. So yeah, they're not going to see it from the road. But again, it's a special development. And again, I say this is what they are requesting, and I say we work with them and give them that variance for that sign. So those are the sign all the variances that we are seeking. Ms. Callis, do you want me to go through all the standards, or can they adopt my correspondence dated May 29th for the standards.
I think it would be helpful to go through the standards.
Sure. So for all the variances, the standards are, the general standard is what's the practical difficulties of meeting the code, okay? And the difficulties in meeting the code is, ones I spoke of recently, is you're building a brand, it's a specific design, it's a prototype building, so that's problems with meeting the code. The other is just the lot depth of Irving Park Road to meet those setback requirements is just, it's fundamentally can't be done. It's also based upon the lot width and getting the adequate size for the turn lanes, and so traffic moves efficiently through the site and also safely. So that's the first factor. The next factor is whether it's unique to the physical conditions. Again, this is unique to the physical conditions, Irving Park Road and the alley run in an angle, and the UDO recognized, remember they used the word concessions. Concessions are going to have to be made, so that's the second factor. The next factor is whether or not these were self-created, and they were not. The lots were platted back when they were, and they're just the lots of record, so it wasn't created by the petitioner. The next factor is whether or not the petitioner would be denied a substantial right. You know, if they don't get the sign along the east side, are they being denied a substantial right? No. But do we want to tell somebody who wants to do this in Wooddale, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that? I'd rather be more of the welcoming, and let's get this development done, get those sales tax in and those tax rates, the property values up. The next factor is whether or not you're just granting something for a special privilege, and it's not. It's based upon the uniqueness of the property. Next is whether or not the variances meet the code and the plan purposes. And as I did say, it meets the UDO and the code, the comprehensive plan to get properties along Irving Park Road redeveloped. The next factor is whether or not it meets the character of the neighborhood. It does. It was a restaurant before. It's a restaurant. It's going to be a restaurant again. No other remedy. We went back and forth with staff. I can't tell you how many emails I sent to Gosha, Stacy, Kelly, trying to figure out the best way to get this to work. And again, the entire design started with keeping that IDOT, that right-of-way along the existing curb cut along Irving Park Road. So when you start with that restriction, you don't really have that many options, believe it or not, with respect to, yes, sir.
In regards to the sign above the windows on the east side, can it be an interior sign? Like if you had your window go string across the top isn't just a solid glass pane where you had your sign there and then run verticals down as you already have, then your sign is an interior thing. It's not an exterior on the side of the building.
If it's within 12 inches, I believe, of the window, it still would be considered a sign. It would be
Thank you.
window sign, I apologize, but it
Thank
would be
you.
window sign.
I know you are, and I appreciate that, right? And Gosha knows the code. My goodness, she knows the code. The next factor is whether or not there's any other remedies, and again, there are no other remedies to get this. The next thing that we are asking for is the approval of the plat of subdivision. We meet all the UDO requirements for the subdivision, or for the plat of subdivision. It's a consolidation. It protects the local character of the properties, provides for adequate stormwater, and it meets the comprehensive plan. Finally, and I'm sorry for how long this was, the last request is for a text amendment. The UDO, when it was adopted, was very restrictive on what variances could be requested from the CDC and the City Council. Most communities, you're allowed to ask for a variance on anything. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you can ask for it. The UDO, for whatever reason, is very restrictive, and the council has opened it up a little bit over time to allow for additional variances. The code right now doesn't allow for landscaping variances. So even if we're going to miss, because of this development, one shade tree or one row of 2-foot-high bushes, we couldn't ask for a variance before this board. I talked to a couple elected officials, and the thought is, we don't want to lose a development over a bush, over landscaping. Again, it doesn't mean you have to grant them. It just gives the opportunity for people to ask for them. So redevelopment's not easy. It's expensive. It takes time. These guys have spent a tremendous amount of money on engineers, architects, attorneys. It takes a lot of work, a lot of staff time to get this done. And you wouldn't, to me, if I was in the city council again, I'd want as much authority as possible to get developments done. And if it's asking for a variance on landscaping, doesn't mean you have to grant it, but that's the text amendment. I believe staff actually supports that text amendment as well. So with that, thank you for your time, and we're here to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. Do any members of the Community Development Commission have any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question on the Sweet Baby Ray's restaurant property. I know you indicated it was going to close. What will ultimately happen with that property?
So they're planning on actually making that like a tasting facility to do, like if somebody was going to have a wedding or a graduation party and they want to taste what the Deuce's Wild is, they would do a tasting there. I think it's actually going to be a room that they could actually possibly rent out as well. So that's not going to be a retail restaurant anymore, but used as part of their, like an extension of their catering business, primarily for tastings.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, linens, chairs, storage.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right. Okay, thank you very much. What we're going to do next is go to staff to get staff's comments on this, and then we'll allow the other members of the public to make their comments.
Thank you. So I will try to run through this because a lot of the requests were covered in detail by the applicant. But just to kind of go back a little bit, we're all familiar with the location. We are on Irving Park Road. This is a corner lot property on Irving Park Road in Maple. The site currently consists of individual lots. There's actually 3 separate parcels that will be consolidated into one through the plat of subdivision process that is one of the petitions in front of us tonight. Currently, the property is vacant. The building will be demolished. The building that was previously occupied by Tom Check's Tap, I believe they closed somewhere in 2023. The property owners acquired the property with the adjoining vacant lots in October of 2024. This is just a screen view, actually a street view of the current property. We see there is some existing landscaping on site. There is a 1-story frame building and some existing parking. All of those will be removed to accommodate the development. A quick look at our zoning map. The property is zoned TCB, Town Center Business Zoning District. Essentially, all the properties to the east and west are zoned similarly TCB. Also on the south side, we do have residential R4 directly adjacent to the north of the subject property, but it is separated by a public alley. The proposed conditions, the site plan that we've seen for a while, this is a restaurant with a drive-through. There is a plan for that patio that will be enclosed, but it can be opened up, so it's kind of indoor-outdoor experience. There's also an opportunity to place additional tables in the sidewalk in front of the entry, so there's some additional seats that could be accommodated here. The traffic on this site will be one-way, so the traffic will enter here, and you can see some of the arrows pointing, and then the traffic will go down. The drive aisle is separate from the drive-through aisle as required by our code. The proposed petition, I believe they accommodate up to 10 vehicles in the entire drive-through aisle. Our code requires at least 6. We do have 6 vehicles prior to the order window, so that code requirement is met. The big intent of the petitioner was to keep that existing access on Irving Park Road, and that kind of predicated the whole design of the site. There are 21 parking spaces being provided on site. The applicant did mention the fact, because they do own property on the west side of Maple, that there's potential for sharing shared parking agreement, thank you. Just in case if it ever becomes an issue, and is identified, and we've actually adding it as one of condition on approval, just so that we have that written in the approval ordinances once we get to it. The stormwater detention, the project is increasing lot coverage on the property. However, they do meet the 80% requirement for commercial properties, but there will be some permeable pavers and some underground sort of infiltration systems to accommodate the additional stormwater. This is the elevation that we've seen before, just the same two photographs. And then we get to the actual request. So there's a number of requests that are in front of CDC tonight. The first one is the special use. So the restaurant is a permitted use in the TCB zoning district. If someone wanted to open a restaurant, they just come in, apply for a commercial occupancy certificate, and they're typically good to go in the TCB zoning district. Because the restaurant wants to use a drive-through, the drive-through component is the one that triggers the special use requirement that is being considered tonight. Anytime the applicant applies for a special use, they need a number 2, which is a site plan review. Our code says that the site plan review, which is essentially a zoning review of the proposal, where we look at the complete submittal of how the property will be laid out, how it will affect the neighboring property, how, what the elements will be of the site plan and the landscaping and so on. So the site plan review is required because the applicant is seeking special use. Then we have the plat of subdivision. That is something that we support because ultimately we're kind of cleaning up the property record. It's under common ownership, which is going to have a one PIN number, one parcel. It'd be a lot easier moving forward. Then the next big request is the text amendment. So that really needs to be considered first before we get to the landscaping variation. The text amendment, as the attorney mentioned, is to really change the code section under the variation requirements. So as you may recall, our UDO has a list of specific code sections from which the property owner, the applicant, may seek relief. And that is really meant for, these are the specific things where City Council is willing to provide some relief, but the rest of the code must be met. Currently, landscaping requirements, the total, like any of the landscape requirements are not listed in there, with the exception. So there's 2 things to consider. The authorized variations would allow any applicant to seek relief to reduce the number of required the number of required replacement trees. The subject property does have some trees that will be removed, but the applicant, based on the documents that were submitted, they are not seeking relief from that tree replacement requirement, so those trees will have to be met on site once the landscape plan comes in for review. Then we also have a code section under the landscape requirements that currently would allow an applicant to seek administrative relief. So this is something that staff could grant to reduce the landscape requirement by 25%. So let's say if the required screening on one side is 100%, they could seek to reduce it by 25%, so from 100 to 75. So ultimately, that's what our current code says. What the applicant is proposing with the text amendment is to really add any of the landscape requirements to the list of authorized variations. So this really would be case-by-case situation moving forward. It would just allow the applicant the ability to even seek that relief where currently they cannot. So that's our text amendment request. And then we get to the zoning variation. So we do have a total of 10 zoning variations and 4 sign code variations. I do want to point out that the final plan, especially the final landscape plan and all the documents that will be submitted for this petition for the permitting, effectively will have to meet all of the code requirements with the exception of the specific variations that will be granted for this from this particular petition. So the applicant actually did a pretty good job going through all the variations, so maybe I'm not going to go into too much detail, but what I do have is a graphic in here kind of highlighting some of those things. So I'll just run through those fairly quickly, I hope. So the first variation, we have the building setback. This is effectively, the code requires 60 feet. Staff concurs that it may be difficult to achieve that, especially on lots on Irving Park Road that are not very deep. So we've got the first variation is from the front setback. Then we've got the variation of the rear setback, which are not significant requests. Then we move on to, let's see, number 2 is the rear setback. Then the parking setback is here along Irving Park Road. Our code, specifically the TCB zoning district, requires the parking, any parking, to be set back at least 8 feet from the property line to accommodate the required landscaping. The applicants are seeking to reduce it from 8 to 5 feet. So this will be this section right here, but the applicant will still be required to provide the code required landscaping in that reduced area. Then we have the parking location. So the UDO, the way it is written for the TCB zoning district, there's a little graphic included in there. It says that when a new development comes in, the parking spaces shall be located on the side that is the closest to the building. So ultimately, the parking spaces would have to be here and the drive aisle on the south. Based on the design, as it was, the site was designed and proposed, those parking spaces are on the opposite side, so that's why the applicant is seeking that variation. Then moving on to the parking variations, we've got a couple. We have the drive aisle. So the drive-through has a specific width requirement. I believe it's 10 feet that is being met. And then for the angled parking spaces that are required, the code would says that we would need at least 18 feet of the drive aisle width. The applicants are seeking relief to reduce it to 16 feet. We did receive a turn diagram from the applicant that actually shows a passenger vehicle being able to kind of back out and still be able to maneuver the site without impacting the drive-through. So that variation for the width is applicable to essentially the drive aisles throughout the entire site. Then let's move on to the landscape requirement. So there's 3 requests that are being sought by the petitioner. I do want to point out that these are conditioned on the approval of the text amendment. So if the text amendment is not approved, the applicant will not be able to seek these requests. The first one is the parking lot perimeter landscaping. So the code does require 100% landscaping of the parking lot adjacent to the front or corner side. In this case, the applicant will be seeking approval of the shared license agreement with the city, which is subject to city council approval, to potentially place that landscaping in the right-of-way. The next variation is here on the east property line. This is where 50% screening of the parking lot would be required, and the applicant is seeking to reduce it to 0. And lastly, we have the foundation landscaping. There's a couple areas where landscaping is being provided, but it's just not wide enough to meet our code. So they're seeking further relief from the 5 foot to, I believe, 2 or 3 feet, depending on the area. And then this is the last slide on the variations being requested. So we've got the building materials. Back a couple years back, our building regulations actually had a section that required commercial buildings, new commercial buildings coming in town, to have 85% brick. And that was the case for a number of years. When the UDO was rewritten in 2022, that requirement was removed, and then we placed that requirement under the UDO, and specifically more into the design guidelines. But very recently, there was a text amendment where we kind of codified in the specific code section, but we reduced it to 50% to be a little bit more accommodating to new developments. So the code currently reads that 50% of elevations that are visible from a right-of-way would have to be either brick or stone or some sort of a masonry material. So that is a requirement that is not being met. There is the limestone being produced, proposed. We haven't seen the details exactly what type of material it is, but if it in fact would meet the masonry requirement, then they are able to provide the 2 or 3% per elevation, depending on which elevation we're looking. So effectively, they're seeking relief to reduce that requirement. And then lastly, we have the sign code variations. So those are variations from Chapter 13. They're separate. They have separate set of standards from our UDO. The first one is the affixed signage. So that is the signage that is on the drive-through bar. As you can see, it's not very large, and it fits in with the branding of the company, of the restaurant that's being proposed. I believe the text will say "Barbecue like a boss," so it's just a slogan. Then we have the artwork, and I apologize, this graphic isn't great, but ultimately there's artwork that's kind of like a trademark, so it's almost like a mural, or it's implied, essentially it's painted signage. Those are not allowed, so the applicant is seeking relief to be able to allow that on the elevation. And then we have the canopy signage. This is essentially on the south elevation facing Irving Park, and also on the Maple elevation. It really just doesn't meet the definition. The definition states that the sign may not protrude or pretty much extend above the canopy. For the design purposes, that's how those signs were permitted. It actually looks appealing. It just doesn't meet the definition, so that's why they have to seek this relief. And then lastly, we have the wall sign that we talked about on the east elevation, so that one is not permitted because it is not facing a street frontage. And most of our signs in the sign code actually have to be visible or placed on an elevation that is facing a street. So a little bit about the compliance with the UDO. The documents that were submitted for the special use site plan review and the variations, whatever documents we had, we did share with our design team just to kind of get preliminary comments. A lot of the comments will have to be addressed during the permitting process, which is pretty standard for a lot of the projects that we see. I mentioned the lot coverage. It does appear, based on the plan that was provided to us, we're right under 80%, so they will not have to seek any relief from that because the permeable pavers and the best practice management that products that they will be using on site. One of the things that we wanted to mention was the delivery area at the rear of the building. So there's a little section off of the alley back here that will be mainly used for delivery. So the truck will be able to kind of back in there, and then deliveries will go into the building. There's a little bit of a narrative in the applicant's statement that kind of talks about this. Staff is recommending placing a condition that if there are any deliveries here, that they do not block the alley, just to make sure that this is still safe for everyone else to use. And then I did want to talk about IDOT. So obviously the property is on Irving Park Road. IDOT, or Illinois Department of Transportation, has jurisdiction on any sort of work that is happening in that right-of-way. So we are placing a condition on the permit and actually on the approval of the special use to ensure that the applicant secures the approval from IDOT. It is an existing curb cut, and I know the applicant is trying really hard to keep it exactly where it is, but modifications will have to be made to it to accommodate development. We're not quite sure of the scope of it, but this is one of the conditions that we wanted to make sure that the applicant gets before we can issue the permitting. And then I did want to mention the fire district. I think it was mentioned earlier that the fire district looked at the drive aisles, and they technically didn't approve the 16 feet. So the fire district actually requires 26-foot fire lanes. And that's from the fire code. It's not our UDO requirement. However, the fire district reviewed the proposal, and they've suggested that they may be able to service the site off of a Maple, but they've specifically requested that a sidewalk be added connecting the right-of-way to the subject property, so if any gurneys or any emergency staff is able to access the site. So that was accommodated in the site plan. Most likely, they will not enter the site, so that's why there's very narrow space for them, but I just wanted to clarify that they didn't specifically say that the 16-foot driveway drive aisle that's not something that falls under their purview. Moving on to the comprehensive plan, it is located in the retail commercial area, or it's designated as retail commercial on the future land use map. So it is in fact a use that is compatible. There's a number of goals that this specific development or redevelopment helps to meet. They're outlined in more detail in the staff memo, but where it's spurring economic development, it's redevelopment of an underutilized site in Wooddale, and it's an existing business that's expanding. So there's a number of goals that this proposed development could effectively help to meet. And then summing up, we're getting close. In terms of the public comment, we did not receive any public comment prior to the meeting. There, as I mentioned, everything was published in the newspaper, and the sign was placed. Some people may have gotten some information from the website, but no one from the public came to our office or contacted our office. And to sum up, I do want to point out that in the staff memo, you probably noticed there are 4 separate motions being because this is a complex project. There's a number of things that are kind of dependent on each other. The motions were separated into sort of separate groups so that one can be considered separately from other requests. And there is a list of conditions, and I apologize, I know this text is tiny, but it is on the last page of the staff memo. Because of the complexity of the project, we try to go through it and identify any sort of information that may still need to be provided or things that will have to be clarified before the approval or before the permitting. So all of these conditions were listed in here, and effectively the approval of the motions would include these conditions if CDC chooses to accept those. And that concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Do any members of the Community Development Commission have any questions for staff?
Regarding the east side plantings, could you bring up the
Of
slide
course.
that has, that one's fine.
Maybe the ledger. Oh,
Lower right-hand side, and I imagine the top right-hand side would be where the dumpster storage is going?
that is correct.
Can there be planting around that and down in that lower
Yes.
right-hand area?
Yes, and that would be required. What
Okay.
the applicant is seeking is specific
from-
relief from the parking lot screening. So the parking lot screening actually has to be along the edge of the parking.
Currently, there are sparse shrubs along the building,
It's on the neighbor's property.
Yeah.
and that's how it's been for how many years? Is it just that it's technically a new development because it's being slates wiped clean, you need to have it on your property then?
That is correct.
They're sparse, I'm thinking also because the building is about 25 feet high and there's no sunlight on the east side of current Tom's Act. So getting something to grow there is gonna be difficult at best, I think.
Are there any other questions for staff?
Is there any signs allowed on the corner in front of the restaurant, or do they all have to be on the building itself?
So there is a monument sign that is proposed. One of the conditions were actually placed on there, so it's right there. We need to ensure that it meets the
Doesn't-
site triangle and the required landscaping. We just don't have that information yet, but that will probably come with the final approval. But there is a monument sign.
And can they put signs where the driveway is on either side, like a exit in?
Correct. Yes, yeah, those are directional signs. Those are not subject to
Okay.
yeah, requirements. Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay. So now we will open up the floor for questions from members of the public. If anybody has something that would like to say, please stand up and get sworn in. Members of the public, or anybody, if anybody else has anything that they would like to say, yes, please stand up and get sworn in, please. And state your name and address. Thank you.
Would you raise your right hand, please, and state your name and address?
Joseph Falco with Custom Style Builders.
Your address, please?
Pardon me?
Your address, please?
It's 904 South Roselle Road in Schaumburg.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. I built a building next to it where Sherwin Williams is, 7,000 square foot building. I'm here because the alley's crucial to this. It's real crucial. They need that alley. Without the alley, I don't know how it would work. And I'm not bashing this thing. What I'm here is for, I paid for half of that alley. It was all stones. When I built that, I paid for the alley, for the soil work and the concrete. I never got reimbursed on that. And I've been fighting it for a while, you know. It's like, so everybody uses it, but I'm the only one that paid for that alley. I don't think that's right, you know. It's been on my mind for a long, long time, and it's like, why should I be the only one paying for that alley? I don't think it's right. I should be reimbursed for everybody else using it. There's a house that uses it too. So I want you to consider that with this proposal. I need to get reimbursed. And I have all the records that you guys need. So, you know, if you could give me a response later or something, what we could do about it, I would appreciate it. It's just not fair to me. And it wouldn't be fair if somebody else did it. Somebody else did it, I should pay my share. It's only fair. So, that's it. Thanks.
Are there any other members of the public or anyone else who would wish to speak? Okay. Having no additional testimony, do we have a motion to close the public hearing for case number CDC 2026-0005? And anyone can say so moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We will do a roll call on the motion, please.
Mr. Parenti,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Tao,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
and Mr. Guzik.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries. The public hearing portion is closed, and now we are entering the portion where the CDC deliberates. And the CDC will deliberate on the merits of the requests. Does any CDC member have any statements or comments that they wish to make at this time?
I think the restaurant's a great improvement for that site. Tom Sack was great, but I mean, now it's time to move on and look better. It's, you know, it looks, what you proposed and everything looks good.
I'd like to know if the man had a agreement with the city. If he had a contract to be reimbursed. Did you?
Could you stand up to
For your
the
alley?
podium? The member is asking whether you had an agreement with the city regarding the alley. If you could stand up at the podium so it could be recorded. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it was in 2020 that this been going on. And I just can't get through them to get reimbursed for that. Or not even the village, whoever is using it should reimburse, you know, part of it, something. And you know, I tried the best I could, but they don't have their ears to listen, you know. It's like, and that's why I came here. It was the right opportunity to come here because they're using that alley, you know. And again, without that alley, this project wouldn't even work. So I should get paid of my part. I mean, I'll tell you what they owe me, okay? Without interest and all that. It's $11,000 I paid at that time, okay? I need that reimbursed, you know? So, I mean,
Can I ask why you had to pay for that, Ally?
what?
Can I ask why you had to pay for that?
Yes, I don't know. I don't know the answer. They just said I had to pay that to finish that building.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think,
Can I jump in?
oh, sure.
So, just so you know, city staff and the city attorney's office does have information on this. We're happy to communicate with him further. However, this isn't technically related to the case at hand, and so it's a separate matter, and we can follow up with him.
Yes.
I was
So
only
if we-
asking for our own reference. The city's got a notorious problem in not paying recapture agreements. All I wanted to know is if he had a recapture agreement.
I have to look yeah, I had it. I mean, I do have it. The village does also.
All right, I think we're going to
Yeah, so,
move on with,
All right, I was just curious.
okay. I mean, I appreciate, you know, let's be fair about it, that's all. You know, if it's not fair, then don't do it, but I believe it's fair, and I think the whole room would think it's fair.
all right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other further comments? All right. Before we entertain any motions, I would like to get a sense if there is general support among the commission for the applicant's variation requests. So we have 10 requests for zoning variations. Is there a consensus with respect to the front setbacks variance? That's reducing the required 60-foot front yard setback by about 12 feet, 7 inches to 48 feet, 5 inches. Do we have consensus?
Do you want to announce names?
Well, how about, by a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the front setback? Okay.
Is that 4? Did I count 4? Mm-hmm. For the front setback.
This is just gauging the consensus. This isn't a formal vote.
Yeah, I understand.
Is there a consensus with respect to the rear setback variance? That's reducing the required 25-foot rear yard setback about 4 feet, 3 inches to 20 feet, 9 inches. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the rear setback? 4. And is that 4? All right. Is there a consensus with respect to the parking setback, reducing the required 8-foot minimum front yard parking setback along Irving Park Road by 3 feet to 5 feet? By a show of hands, who is in favor? And that's 4 again. Is there a consensus with respect to the parking location? This is the variation from the requirement that parking spaces shall be located on the drive side aisle closest to the principal structure. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the parking location? Okay, so that's 5. Is there a consensus with respect to the drive aisle width? This would be reducing the width of the drive aisles by 2 feet from the required 18 feet to 16 feet. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the drive aisle width? Okay, that would be 5. Is there a consensus with respect to the number of parking spaces? This would be reducing the number of required parking spaces by 4 from 25 to 21 parking spaces. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the number of parking spaces? That would be 5. Is there a consensus with respect to the parking lot perimeter regarding the corner side? This is the elimination of the required 100% landscaping requirement of the parking lot abutting the west property line by reducing it to 0%. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the parking lot perimeter regarding the corner side? That would be 5. Is there a consensus with respect to the parking lot perimeter regarding the east side? This is the elimination of the required 50% landscaping requirement of the parking lot abutting the commercial property along the east property line by reducing it to 0%. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the parking lot perimeter regarding the east side? That would be 5. Is there a consensus with respect to the foundation landscaping? This would be reducing the required 5-foot foundation landscaping around the base of the building by 3 feet to about 2 feet. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the foundation landscaping? Would be 5. Is there a consensus with respect to the building materials? This is reducing the requirement to have the building construction with 50% stone, brick, or other masonry materials to about 2%. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the building materials? That would be 4. Okay, now we have also 4 requests for variations concerning the sign code. Is there a consensus with respect to the affixed signage? This is allowing the installation of the barbecue like a boss sign affixed above the clearance bar of the drive-through. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the affixed signage? Okay, we have 5. Is there a consensus with respect to the painted signage? That would be allowing the painting of the trademark pig mural. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the painted signage? Okay, that would be 5. Is there a consensus with respect to the canopy signs to allow the text to protrude above the canopy signs facing Irving Park Road and Maple Avenue? By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the canopy signs? Okay, that would be 5. Is there a consensus with respect to the wall sign without street frontage? This would be allowing a wall sign that does not face the public right-of-way. Here, the sign would be on the east side of the building above the patio. By a show of hands, who is in favor of approving the variation for the wall sign without street frontage? Okay, that would be 5. Thank you. So moving along to our motions. I am first looking for a motion for the requested text amendment. Based on the submitted petition and the testimony presented, the proposed text amendment to allow consideration of variations to the landscape requirements is consistent with the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, and therefore I move that the Community Development Commission adopt the findings of fact included within the staff memo dated June 15th, 2026 as the findings of the Community Development Commission and recommend to the City Council approval of the text amendment for property located at 265 East Irving Park Road in case number CDC 2026-0005, subject to the conditions listed in the staff memo. Do we have that motion, and anyone can say so moved?
So moved.
I'm sorry, who was I?
Member Tao?
Mr. Tao, in a second? And a roll call?
Yes, a roll call, please.
Mr. Parenti?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Tao?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
And Mr. Guzik?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Having received the required affirmative vote, the motion does pass. Now I am looking for a motion for the requested sign code variations. Based on the submitted petition and the testimony presented, the proposed 4 sign variations are consistent with the sign code and comprehensive plan. And therefore, I move that the Community Development Commission adopt the findings of fact included within the staff memo dated June 15th, 2026, as the findings of the Community Development Commission, and recommend to the City Council approval of the sign variations for property located at 265 East Irving Park Road in case number CDC 2026-0005, subject to the conditions listed in the staff memo. Do we have that motion, and anyone can say so moved?
So moved.
Second.
A roll call, voice vote, please.
I'm sorry, I was writing.
Roll call vote, please.
Who was the second?
I was.
Chairman Parenti.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and a roll call again. Mr. Parenti?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Tao?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Guzik?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, with the 5 votes, the motion does pass. I am now looking for a motion for the requested zoning variations. Based on the submitted petition and the testimony presented, the proposed 10 zoning variations are consistent with the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, and therefore I move that the Community Development Commission adopt the findings of fact included within the staff memo dated June 15th, 2026, as the findings of the Community Development Commission, and recommend to the City Council approval of the zoning variations for property located at 265 East Irving Park Road in case number CDC 2026-0005, subject to the conditions listed in the staff memo. Do we have that motion, and anyone can say so moved?
So moved.
I'll second.
A roll call, please.
The second,
Was Member Tao?
Mr. Tao, thank you. Okay. Mr. Parenti?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Tao?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
And Mr. Guzik?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, yes, 5 affirmative votes, the motion passes. I am now looking for a motion for the special use, site plan review, and plat of subdivision. Based on the submitted petition and the testimony presented, the proposed special use for a drive-through, site plan review, and plat of subdivision are consistent with the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. And therefore, I move that the Community Development Commission adopt the findings of fact included within the staff memo dated June 15th, 2026, as the findings of the Community Development Commission, and recommend to the City Council approval of the special use for a drive-through, site plan review, and plat of subdivision for property located at 265 East Irving Park Road in case number CDC 2026-0005, subject to the conditions listed in the staff memo. Do we have that motion, and anyone can say so moved?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Parenti?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mr. Tao?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
And Mr. Guzik?
Yes.
Okay.
Carries.
Yes, we had 5 affirmative votes. Motion passes. Mr. Chairman, that concludes tonight's hearing matters, and I cede the floor back to you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any report from staff, Gosha?
Not at this time.
We've been here a while, so I guess. All right, I need a motion to adjourn. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Okay, getting the motion.
All favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned.